You know, in my 15 years leading wildlife rescue operations across East Africa, I've encountered parasites that would make your skin crawl. Bot flies that burrow into flesh, ticks the size of grapes, worms that can take over an animal's entire nervous system. But what we discovered attached to a red-tailed hawk 3 weeks ago in the remote highlands of Kenya has left our entire scientific community baffled, and frankly, it's challenged everything we thought we knew about parasitic organisms on this planet. My name is Marcus Thompson, and I'm the lead coordinator for the East Africa Wildlife Emergency Response Team. The call came in at 4:23 a.m. from Dr. Elena Vasquez, a research ornithologist conducting a migration study in the Aberdare Mountains. Her voice was shaking so badly I could barely make out her words through the satellite phone. "Marcus," she whispered, "I need your team here immediately. I found something that I don't think it belongs on Earth." When a scientist with 20 years of field experience tells you she's discovered something that doesn't belong on our planet, you don't ask questions. You pack your gear and you move. My team and I loaded our emergency vehicle with everything we could think of: tranquilizer guns, surgical instruments, containment units, even our hazmat suits that we rarely use outside of disease outbreaks. The drive to the research station took us through some of the most remote terrain in Kenya, winding mountain roads that seemed to climb endlessly into the clouds. Every mile, I kept trying to imagine what could possibly shake Dr. Vasquez like that. This woman had studied birds on every continent, handled everything from tiny hummingbirds to massive eagles, and seen parasites and diseases most people couldn't even pronounce. When we arrived, Dr. Vasquez met us, her face pale. Her hands were trembling as she led us toward a makeshift containment area. "I found the hawk yesterday evening," she explained, her voice barely a whisper. "At first I thought it was just injured, but when I got closer..." She stopped and turned to face us, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and scientific fascination. "Marcus, in all my years, I've never seen anything like what's attached to this bird. It's not just feeding on it, it's changing it, altering its behavior, its physiology, maybe even its DNA." As we approached, I could hear the hawk, but these weren't normal hawk calls. They were almost electronic, like screeching mixed with digital interference. The hair on my neck stood up. When Dr. Vasquez pulled back the tarp, what I saw made my blood run cold. There was a red-tailed hawk, but it was unlike any bird I'd ever seen. Its eyes, normally bright yellow, were now a deep, iridescent blue that seemed to pulse with its own light. Its feathers had a metallic sheen, and attached to the base of its skull was something that defied every biological classification I knew. The organism was the size of a fist, with a surface like liquid mercury that moved with purpose. Tendrils or feeding tubes had penetrated deep into the hawk's neck, and every few seconds bioluminescent pulses traveled along them as if it was controlling the bird's nervous system. But here's the terrifying part. The hawk wasn't acting sick. It was more alert, more intelligent than any bird of prey I'd ever observed. Its movements were precise, calculated. When it looked at us, there was an intelligence in those glowing blue eyes that seemed almost aware. It was studying us just as intently as we were studying it. Dr. Vasquez showed us her preliminary observations. The hawk's muscle mass had increased by 30%. Its bone density had nearly doubled. Most incredibly, its brain activity, measured by a portable EEG, showed patterns resembling human cognitive function more than typical avian brain waves. The organism itself was even more mysterious. It seemed partially organic and partially something else, something that looked almost technological. Under a microscope, Dr. Vasquez found structures that resembled circuitry and materials that conducted electricity in ways biological tissue simply shouldn't. My team looked at each other with a mix of curiosity and genuine fear. Sarah, our vet, was racking her brain for any known parasite that matched. Mike, Our equipment specialist was double-checking our containment protocols for what might be a completely unknown biological threat. But I knew what we were all thinking. How do you remove an organism that might not be from this planet without killing the host? And more importantly, what if this thing could spread to other wildlife, or worse, to us? The decision I made next was probably the most controversial of my career. Instead of immediate removal, I decided we needed to understand it first. We set up a complete mobile lab around the containment unit. What we discovered over the next 48 hours changed everything. The organism wasn't just feeding on the hawk, it was enhancing it. The bird's vision had improved dramatically. Its reflexes were faster than any raptor on record, and it seemed to be developing problem-solving abilities that bordered on the supernatural. But we also found something that forced us to act immediately. The organism was growing and beginning to produce what looked like spores. If this thing could reproduce and spread, we could be looking at an ecological disaster unlike anything the planet had ever seen. The removal procedure was unlike anything we'd ever attempted. Using a combination of surgery and electromagnetic field generators that Mike improvised, we began the delicate process of severing its connection to the hawk's nervous system. What happened next was surreal. As we began to disconnect the feeding tubes, the organism emitted a high-pitched whine that wasn't biological. It made our electronics malfunction and caused severe headaches in everyone. The hawk began making those electronic calls again, almost like distress signals. The most incredible part was when we finally detached the organism. The moment it lost contact with the hawk, it began to dissolve, literally breaking down into a silvery liquid that evaporated within minutes. It was as if it couldn't exist without its host, or was programmed to self-destruct if discovered. The hawk, once freed, immediately went back to normal. Its eyes faded to their natural yellow, its feathers lost their metallic sheen, and its calls returned to typical hawk vocalizations. Within hours, it was behaving like a completely normal bird, with no apparent memory of its enhanced state. We released the hawk 3 days later, fully healthy, but the implications of what we discovered kept me awake for weeks. Where did this organism come from? Were there others? And most disturbing of all, what if this wasn't the first time something like this had happened? Dr. Vasquez and I submitted our findings to every major scientific journal and government agency we could, but the response has been skepticism. Without physical evidence, most scientists dismiss our account, but I know what we saw. Somewhere out there might be other organisms like this one, other animals being enhanced or controlled by something that doesn't follow the rules of our biology. That thought terrifies me more than any crocodile I've ever faced. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever seen wildlife behaving in ways that seemed impossible or unnatural? Share your experiences in the comments. If there are more organisms like this out there, we need to know. And if this story has you questioning what else might be hiding in our natural world, please hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible stories that challenge what we think we know about wildlife. Because sometimes the most important rescues are about protecting our entire understanding of what life on Earth really means.